The Nerd Prom is tomorrow night in Washington, D.C., the White House Correspondents Dinner, Mark. And I'm sure we've both been to many of these things. They're a complete bore. They're just absolutely painful. But there's a time in Washington when you have to do it in your career. And it's amazing to me that they're still going. This year, President Trump will not be there. He doesn't have a good relationship with the media, so there's even less reason to go. And you tell me whether these things have long past their expiration date.
Well, I mean, I used to like going early in my career because I could see a lot of people, particularly after I moved to New York, which I did a long time ago, and still covered Washington regularly. So I liked them just because I could see, 50 people in one night and to reacquaint. So for me, that was good. The overall notion of the thing, particularly with the Republican president, is past its sell date. Because although Donald Trump has a special relationship with the media, it's always been a bunch of almost all liberal reporters from liberal organizations celebrating their own worldview and not treating George Bush the same as Barack Obama. In addition, it's supposed to be about celebrating journalism and starting in 3 or 4 decades ago, people started bringing celebrities and turned it into something very different. So Washington in general is such a boring place that I don't mind a little celebrity and a little bit of excitement. But this massive dinner, particularly with Donald Trump in office and the White House Correspondents Association having gone just crazy anti-president, I think they would have been better off canceling it as opposed to doing the version of it they're going to do.
Here's one of the funniest and most telling takes that I just read before we came to air on Nerd Prom. It's by this guy who writes for Mediaite named Colby Hall, who his headline is, "This year's White House Correspondents' Dinner serves only to normalize Trump's First Amendment dumpster fire. I won't be a part of it." Good for you, Colby. Good for you. He's so self-congratulatory again. And he says as follows. President Trump's constant attacks on the media, which is in his first term ranged from petty insults to ominous but contained action against the press, have escalated into a war that mirrors authoritarian states in far-flung regions of the world. That's why I'm opting to skip this year's weekend. And he goes on to quote certain upset journalists who don't want any part of this. They have, let's see. "What is there to celebrate?" one prominent editor of an influential outlet said. "The first Trump term was weird enough because the White House didn't engage, but his staffers like Sean Spicer and Kellyanne Conway still really gave a shit. Now it's like the current Trump White House truly, not performatively, hates and is attacking the press." Then you've got him quoting another person saying, "With Disney bending the knee to Trump, Paramount contemplating doing the same to settle the president's insane lawsuit against 60 Minutes, the White House bringing in all these ridiculously sycophantic alt media figures, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend et al. It's an unsettling time to be in news media and an odd time to be celebrating anything." Finally, said a longtime cable news anchor to Colby Hall, "To me, this represents everything that's wrong with both Washington and the White House press corps, which is in the midst of a crisis of relevancy, public trust, and confidence. Having a big black tie soiree does not read right to Americans." That's the only point I will cede of those three. So the press is outraged that anybody would go to celebrate it's not a celebration of Trump, but in the era of Trump, they're not even allowed to go to this because they hate Trump?
There's a thing in Politico Playbook this morning that I read twice because I thought maybe I was missing a parody. But, the parties have already started. They start on Wednesday night. And they quote a reporter saying that all the reporters are hugging each other and the hugs are lingering a little longer than usual because everybody is so upset. They're also traumatized by having to cover a Republican president. I mean, again, this goes back to the Biden years and the Obama years. The thing that's so obvious that they just won't admit is that the central dynamic here is not some of the things they claim it is. The central dynamic is they've covered Republican presidents, particularly this one, hostilely for decades, and they want to be treated exactly the same way they are treated by Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, and they're just not going to be treated that way. And And it's possible that even if they changed their behavior and weren't biased, maybe the Trump administration wouldn't change. But let's try it and see. Let's try covering them fairly and then see what happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and Trump, to his credit, like he just announced yesterday on Truth Social that he was sitting down last night with Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic. Yeah. And he says, like, this is the guy, he hates me. He reported what Trump says is a lie about Trump referring to our dead soldiers as suckers and losers. He reported the Signalgate controversy, which has been, a big story in Trump's first 100 days. And yet he still sat down with him. It's like Trump, look, he and I were on the outs for 9 months. He still sat down with me. He didn't actually even like the interview. But then, he, to his credit, he will give you second and third and fourth chances in the press. They just hate him. They hate his politics, Mark. It's not about what he says about the press.
No, of course. The example I've been giving to reporters to kind of try to raise their consciousness is what's one of the things the press is most upset about. They're upset about the Associated Press not being allowed to cover the White House the way they used to because of their content, okay? So what I say to them is, okay, you've turned that into a crisis of the Constitution. In the last administration, the Biden folks did the exact same thing to the New York Post. They didn't like the New York Post coverage of Hunter Biden, and so they excluded the New York Post reporters from covering White House events. I'd argue that was even worse because of the nature of why they were so angry and because it wasn't covered. That wasn't covered anywhere but the New York Post and by people like us. And so here you have one president doing something that's ignored, and the other president does something pretty much the same but not quite as bad in my view, and it's treated as a constitutional crisis. So unless the press comes clean on that, comes clean on Biden's mental acuity loss and the conspiracy to cover that up, it's very hard to see how they think they have the standing to say, this president doesn't like us. He doesn't appreciate us. He doesn't appreciate what we do. All presidents don't like their coverage. All presidents do things to the media that I wish they wouldn't do. But the double standard is so strong. I don't know. I don't understand how they think they're going to look better in the eyes of the American people or how a dinner like this makes any sense until they decide to cover every president really tough. I'm not saying they should cover Donald Trump lightly. What I'm saying is they should cover him tough and fair, same way they've covered other presidents, and they just don't do that with him.
Mm-hmm. I should say this, the headline on HuffPost this morning is, HuffPost is bringing workers fired by Trump to the White House Correspondents Dinner to highlight the Trump administration's scorched earth attack on vital government functions and its workers. HuffPost is bringing guests who have experienced the fallout firsthand. Some guy who is a federal watchdog in charge of protecting whistleblowers who Trump fired. Rohit Chopra, who headed the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau until Trump fired him. Andrew Bivens, a USAID employee. I mean, okay.
Not the role of the media. That's not the role of the media.
Right? Like, take a stand, take a position, HuffPo. That's great. Just own it. In any event, it will go forward, and I'm sure we'll enjoy the pictures and stories that come out of it and cover it right here. Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text MK to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless five-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took decades to get into the tangled mess that they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long will it take to get out of it, and what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.